Today I want to talk about consciousness and a thought that I had recently, thinking about manifestation and thinking how everything that I think about literally makes its way to my reality so quickly. But some of those things are very subtle, and some of those things that we want to name them as coincidences because if we do so, we don't want to think that this is something we created, especially when it comes to difficult things.
I swear, my whole life is like that gut feeling that something really bad is going to happen, and then it does.
Coffee.
Thanks. What are you doing here?
Well, I couldn't very well leave without knowing y'all were all right. Do you have homeowners insurance?
You mean the only one I can afford with a $5,000 deductible? Story of my life.
You know, things don't have to be a series of unfortunate events.
Well, it sure as hell feels that way.
I know, but I've found that when I think about what I want instead of what I don't want, my life is just so much better.
You're one of those people who wakes up happy, aren't you?
So I had an accident and broke my arm. I had surgery, but before that happened, I remember having those distinct thoughts of everything is so different here, and I was just trying to remember and because when you compare and you think, oh, this is different how it used to be, often in our mind we try to bring up the picture of how things used to be, right? Like even just in order to have this comparison. I was remembering the feeling, and when you remember the feeling, you feel the feeling.
We have to be careful because we get what we expect.
Mommy, is that true?
What, honey?
What do you call this?
A crab riding a bike?
What else?
A magnet.
Which attracts things with a force that you cannot see, but is definitely real. Your thoughts work the same way. The more you think about something, the more you draw it to you.
So I was remembering the feeling of being of how it felt being back home, and it felt very much suffocating, and it felt like I was kind of the center of attention in some way. And even though I didn't enjoy it, I got so used to how that feels. And another distinct thing that I remember is I always go to a lot of doctors when I'm home, and that's because of just doing checkups. And this time I came around and I realized, well, I'm not going anywhere, and it's not even planned for me, and I've actually been quite healthy too, so which is a good thing, of course, but it's just that kind of weirdness, and also this space that opens up in a moment when you realize, oh, things are not what I thought they are or what they are supposed to be. And maybe because you have that expectation of how things are supposed to be, expectation that may be largely unconscious because it's automatic, it's how things have always been, right? It's the kind of stuff you don't need to imagine or think too much how your bedroom or your house is going to look like when you wake up in the morning, because you have that expectation, and that expectation is very clear. It's not even a thought, it's just what it is. But imagine if you were to wake up and experience something different, depending on circumstance, right? I mean, if you wake up and see in your bedroom, very different. But even then, right, there is a different reaction that you can have to it. And But more importantly, it opens up the space for a different reality to come in. But what often happens in that space, we cling to the old reality and we just bring up the thoughts and feelings of how it used to be, because this is new and this is unfamiliar and this is uncertain. And the thing is, truly, sometimes things change for the worse, right? But there is still an opportunity there to create something, and create something at an energetic level first, and then externally too. Sometimes we don't take that opportunity because we resist things changing. We're just resisting change. And as simple as that. And I feel like it took me some time to reflect on this and see it in such a way, because it was true. It's part of me. I just didn't even know how to feel about going home, and people keep asking me, and I didn't wanna imagine that space or create anything on a conscious level, because there's also have been a lot of disappointments, and I just kind of felt like, well, things are gonna be the way they always are. So instead of trying to create a certain idea in my mind, I want to let go of that, and I'm just gonna focus on the reality. And then when I came, and the reality was different from the expected realities that I have, and it wasn't that it was better or worse necessarily, it was just different. And that difference, it was very difficult for the ego. That's the interesting part, because I'm like, what is the difficulty there? Like, what is so difficult about it? Because in my case, in my circumstances, it was just well, I would say they're minor things. It's just realizing how much the whole city changed, because I haven't been there in 4 years. Realizing how my parents changed in some way, how their lives have changed. So it's not even like it has changed for the worse. It's just different. And I think that presented a conflict and difficulty for the psyche to integrate that change, because whenever we're confronted with those changes that we cannot control, and in the environment that we thought is so familiar, and there is a certain familiarity associated with it, but then everything is different, and when we're confronted with that, there is this subconscious, I would say, well, it depends, right? It depends on the feeling of the safety. But if there is nothing that is upholding that identity of the self, that kind of ego self starts to crumble in some way, and it starts to crumble and hold on to that reality. And it all happens at such a subtle unconscious level, that subconscious level, that I just remember having those glimpses of having those thoughts of this is different, this is different, and in that difference having a lot of comparisons and longing for some things of how things were, even though those things, it's not necessarily that I enjoyed how things were. It was just like a memory that keep coming up as a way of comparison. So I think it really connects to that concept from Buddhism, actually, the beginner's mind. And why is it so important? It's not so much, I think in Buddhism there is a lot of emphasis on attachment, and a lot of spiritual teachings too, right? Attachment and ego, and how it's bad to have the attachments. But I think attachments really mean in that context specifically that it's not that you don't have any feelings about anything or you're not attached to, I don't know, your family or other things, whatever the context is. I think it's having detachment from the outcome of how things supposed to be. And I think this is what really helps to see things in a fresh way, and to let those things be the way they are, without trying to control them, because really we certainly couldn't. Like, I'm not saying that it means that, oh, if you don't like the circumstance, you shouldn't like change what you can, right? Like, so say if I really didn't like the change, I could have looked at some other alternative. You can still take control of certain things regarding to yourself, but it comes down to how you see things in the first place. And I mean, see things really, like, it's not a step, an extra step into the analysis. It's almost like a step back outside of it, a step back from the duality, and a step back to seeing something with fresh eyes. And I think that in itself creates a certain excitement and embrace of the present as it is, and it helps to bring something new into that space that is created, that is replacing the old. So of course, when we look outside of the window, like, so today is raining and yesterday didn't rain, so it was sunny, and I can see that difference and I know that difference. But it's like, am I gonna focus on feeling on what isn't, on that space that is created because my expectation didn't align with reality?
That day, they were shocked. Their whole world had been turned upside down. They weren't aware of the changes occurring in their environment and assumed the cheese would always be there. Hem ranted and raved. What? No cheese? No cheese? Who moved my cheese? He hollered for a while and finally said, "It's not fair." Ha was just as stunned, but he didn't rant and rave. He just stood there in shock and disbelief. He couldn't believe it and just tuned it all out. They went home that night hoping it would be back the next day, but as you can imagine, it wasn't there.
Or am I gonna just focus on the reality? And it's like that thought, it could just be like very momentarily. Like, there is no need to dwell on it. And I think that's important, because it's really important to then fill the space and use the reality and work with it.
They simply put their running shoes back on and set out into the maze looking for new cheese. They didn't complicate the issue. The problem and the solution were simple. No more cheese? Go find new cheese. As the author stated, the situation at Cheese Station C had changed. So Sniff and Scurry decided to change.
And by that I mean, like, if I'm just going to sit here and focus on the difference, it's not really going to lead me anywhere. Or I can continue making choices that is like, oh, it's raining, but I want to wear this. And because it was sunny yesterday, I was hoping it's going to be sunny today. And then I'm still going to wear what I planned to wear for sunny weather. But it doesn't align, and then I'm not enjoying it. And so the focus is still continuously on the past, because my actions are not aligned to the present either, right? Like, they're still informed by the past, and then I'm not getting the outcomes that I want, and then I'm unhappy, and and so on and so on, and perpetuates that focus on the past. But really all I need to do is focus on the fact that, okay, it isn't sunny today, okay, it's raining. Yes, it's different, but, let's work with it. And that is about filling that space with new actions, new thoughts, new possibilities, right? Like, it's like, okay, then I'm gonna wear a sweater, or I'm gonna, do this and that instead of that. So it's really like working with that new reality. And I think it's so important when it comes to those bigger situations, because say when I was with my family and I'm still trying to focus on the past and act in the ways that I used to act in, it does create a disalignment, and it keeps me stuck in the past, and it keeps me, like, subconsciously I'm trying to bring about the old pattern and the old situation, because that is what my mind is focused on. I only became aware of it after, because through my accident, actually, I brought about exactly what I didn't want, actually, but exactly what I was expecting my experience to be there in the first place. And that is being in a hospital, that is going around different doctors, and that is being the center of attention. And even though I didn't want it in such a way, it was like, it created that suffocating feeling because I'm the center of attention and something I didn't want, yet it's exactly something I got as a result of that accident. And so this is where it also connects to that phrase when a lot of psychotherapists say that it's like whatever you have in your life, whatever circumstances or things that are happening, you are creating them in some way because they're serving you in some way. And so I think this case, like my injury, was really serving me in a way to bring about those outcomes. The outcomes that were running at my subconscious mind, that I wasn't consciously aware of. But what required of me was just kind of to shift the perspective, and if I chose my actions from the reality and worked with a new reality, it's likely that the accident wouldn't have happened, and it would have been a different pattern of thoughts altogether. And this is not to say that, I regret it, because in the end of the day, it brought me here. It was a really great experience to see that on such scale, to see that about my mind. I've learned a lot from that injury too, but yeah, it's just another great reminder of how much we can influence our reality and how important it is to be aware of what's going on in our minds beneath the conscious mind. Thank you for watching.